Once upon a time, a 17-year-old girl from Willoughby, Ohio, ventured to the Indianapolis 500 and left with the dream of one day competing in the greatest spectacle in racing.
I am living my dream. I have a very results-oriented kind of personality, and I'm very defined about what I want to do, and it's only been 4 years that I defined Indy as a goal. It was a dream for a lot of years before that, but to me, dreams are kind of things that you hang out there and you think, God, wouldn't it be neat someday? A goal is something I say, I'm going to do that, and so first it was the dream, and now it was the goal, and now I'm absolutely living it, and it's got to be the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
That dream required desire, persistence, and experience. Lynn St. James was willing to pay her dues and do whatever it took to make her dreams come true. The road to Indy is a difficult one. After all, Lynn did not just show up at the Speedway gates and expect to race. She earned her way to the Brickyard. The road began somewhat inauspiciously in 1974 at a track in West Palm Beach, Florida, where she drove her Ford Pinto into a lake and almost drowned. Most people would have called it quits, but not Lynn. She continued the pursuit of her dream as she climbed the amateur ranks of the sport. By 1978, she was competing at the national level of amateur racing. By 1979, she was racing professionally. Her career really began to take off in 1981 with the help of sponsorship from the Ford Motor Company. She began with the Mercury Capri, but quickly drove her way into higher, faster classes of racing. In 1984, Auto Week named her Rookie of the Year in the IMSA GTO division. The following year, she won her first professional race at Elkhart Lake, and then went on to win at Watkins Glen and Daytona. She has won the 24-hour race at Daytona twice and the 12-hour race at Sebring. She's competed at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and along the way set 31 national and international closed course speed records. Nothing worth striving for ever comes easy, and auto racing is no different. In auto racing, the difference between victory and disaster can be measured in milliseconds. Lynn has survived her share of on-track incidents, which include being rear-ended at 180 miles per hour at Riverside International Raceway in 1986. Amazingly, she crawled unhurt through the flames to continue her pursuit of Indy. Finally, in 1992, she returned to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, not as a spectator, but this time as a driver. Just the second woman to attempt to qualify for the world's biggest race, she not only succeeded, but excelled. Lynn finished 11th in her first 500.
Lynn St. James has received the 1992 Bank One Rookie of the Year Award for 1992.
In 1994, she qualified 6th, ahead of world champion drivers Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell. Lynn St. James's accomplishments have not all taken place on the racetrack. As the leading woman competing head-to-head with men in a male-dominated sport, Lynn has gained recognition as one of the world's top female role models. She is committed to advancing the role of women in sports and in society through her personal involvement in many charitable, not-for-profit, and professional organizations. These include the Lynn St. James Foundation, the Women's Sports Foundation, the Kettering University Board of Trustees. As an advocate for automotive safety and spokesperson for Drive Safer America campaign, as a spokesperson for Overcoming Together, and the Car Care Council. Her professional pursuits have included co-founder of Human Performance International, co-founder of the Women's Global GT Series, spokesperson and consumer advisor for Ford Motor Company, and television commentator for ABC, ESPN, and Showtime. She's even found the time to fly with the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds, and has been a guest of Presidents Reagan, Bush, and Clinton at the White House.
I found out that racing and being an athlete and a competitor is so self-centered. You are so focused on your own being, and quite frankly, that gets old after a while, and it doesn't balance you out. And so when I found out that, gee, maybe I could, through my efforts and through my knowledge and through my contacts or through my expertise, that I could help other young girls or other women athletes even, achieve their dreams and their goals. This was like incredibly powerful.
Yes, it's a long way from Willoughby, Ohio to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But with drive, determination, and perseverance, Lynn St. James has pursued her dreams and been an inspiring role model to millions. Lynn believes a key ingredient to success is to believe in yourself and encourage others to believe in you. As the top female race car driver in the world, Lynn is not only changing the rules for women, but also redefining their roles and changing perceptions as well.
Well, I started taking piano lessons when I was 6 years old, when I didn't have a lot of influence in my life and decision making. Your parents say, you're going to take piano lessons. Oh, okay. You learn discipline. You learn how to practice. You learn poise. You learn grace. All these things besides learning how to play the piano.
As a teenager, Lynn St. James seemed committed to a career in music. She spent 13 years studying the piano, but in the end, she applied everything she had learned to another instrument, the automobile.
Well, I've always had an interest in racing. I was a great fan and a great spectator first. I used to go to a lot of races, buy a lot of tickets. Then I decided I really wanted to be on the other side. I wanted to drive.
And drive she did. First as an amateur racer in the Southeast, then as a professional. Driving in the Kelly American Challenge Series, Lynn was named the top woman driver at the end of her first pro season. She won that title again in 1981 and 1982. In 1984, she was honored as Auto Week magazine's IMSA Camel GT Rookie of the Year. Then, in 1985, she made motorsports history. She became the first woman ever to win a major American road race, nearly lapping the field at Watkins Glen in her Motorcraft Ford Mustang. Cars have become the focus of Lynn's life. Even when she's not racing, nearly everything she does is somehow connected to her passion for the automobile. At home in Florida, she's the owner of Autodyne, a distributor of performance auto parts.
As far as you know, it was in its own box when we sent it out with the hardware? Yeah.
Even when she sits at her piano or works out at the health club, cars and racing are always on Lynn's mind.
Every piano is different. And so you have to learn to get the most out of that piano in the same way with driving a race car. Driving a race car is very, very physically demanding and mentally demanding. And what happens in the process of driving a race is that if you get physically tired, then it puts even a bigger drain on you mentally. So it's very, very important to be in good physical condition. It's been known that if you take two equal cars and two equally talented race car drivers, the one in better physical condition will win the race. So it can be the difference between winning at the end of a race and finishing second.
Lynn St. James is a winner, and she shares her winning philosophy with audiences across the country.
We do have an awful lot in common. You are at the top of your careers and in your chapters, and I'm also at the top of mine. Women can do anything. We can achieve it. We can go for it, and I hope to see you all in Victory Lane. Thank you. But now that women are showing that they can do it and that they should be accepted and that they are not only good enough, but they're even better than a lot of the men, I think that that is changing those attitudes. It's difficult. God knows it's difficult.
But Lynn St. James thrives on challenge, and she's about to take on the biggest challenge of her racing career. She will drive this high-performance racing machine around the world's fastest speedway in an attempt to become the fastest woman ever to lap a racetrack. Her goal, 200 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
In her quest to top 200 miles per hour, Lynn St. James has come to the world's fastest speedway in Talladega, Alabama. And here to show her the quickest way around this track is the reigning king of Talladega, NASCAR star, Bill Elliott.
Talladega is a racetrack within itself, and here you just get on a racetrack and you put the pedal to the floor and go on.
Twice a year, Elliott and 39 other NASCAR drivers compete here at Talladega. More than 100,000 fans jammed the grandstands and infield. Driving this red number 9 Ford Thunderbird, Elliott set the track record for stock cars here during 1985 and enjoyed one of his greatest victories. He led the race in the early going, then fell nearly 2 laps off the pace before coming back to win the fastest 500-mile race ever run. Bill Elliott, a man who has taken on Talladega and beaten it, but a man who understands that Talladega can fight back.
I think the major difficulty of driving Talladega is just feeling the speed. And once you go out and get used to the car, it's knowing the limitations of the car and knowing what the edge is, and then just getting used to the speed. The thing about it is you can't make a mistake here. It's not that hard to drive, but you can't make a mistake here at Talladega.
Bill didn't make any mistakes at Talladega during 1985, winning both NASCAR races on the tough tri-oval. When Lynn St. James drives out onto this high-speed track, there will be no cheering crowds in the grandstands. She will be alone, facing Talladega all by herself. Inside this truck is the vehicle Lynn will drive, the Ford Probe, a racing machine designed to compete against some of the most sophisticated race cars in the world. Sleek, slippery, aerodynamic, powered by a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Only 129 cubic inches, but capable of producing an incredible 650 horsepower.
The pedal's going to be kind of soft because it's got carbon brakes, and they always bleed up real soft.
Okay.
Plus, there's a little angle.
The challenge Lynn faces is to take the Probe out on an unfamiliar racetrack and push it to its limits, to squeeze the maximum out of the 4 cylinders, to lap the high-banked Talladega tri-oval at more than 200 miles per hour.
Seat feels good, though.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
Come on, good.
yeah. Padding feels, you know. Instead of hitting you here and hitting you in the shoulder.
Although Lynn has never raced at Talladega, she has tested the Probe several times on twisting road race courses in California.
I think the most phenomenal thing about the Probe that we all forget, because you're capsulized in there and then you see this neat little body, is it has this little turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. But I want to tell you, when you put your foot on the gas, that thing lights up like it's been shot out of a cannon. You have to be absolutely ahead of all of that, and you have to be in control of it.
It's a lot of racetrack.
Being in control is the key to conquering any racetrack, but especially Talladega. Bill Elliott has co-driven with Lynn, and he feels she has what it takes to challenge the superspeedway.
She's a good driver. She's a smart driver. She seems to do all the right things, all the right moves on the racetrack. She knows a good bit about the car. You know, that's what really surprises me about a lot of race car drivers. There's a lot of drivers out there that don't really understand the car, and I feel like she does in a lot of ways.
Lynn's trip to Talladega is the culmination of a dream to go faster than any other woman, faster than most men.
This all started when one day I happened to see a brochure from Talladega that was all of the records here set at Talladega, and I saw Mark Donohue's record at 2:21, which I'd heard about and read about. So I knew that existed, and I went down further on the list, and I saw this women's closed course record, which was 189 miles an hour, and I thought, I can't let that be. I've got to be able to get that better.
A person's accomplishments are most often measured in numbers, seconds, minutes, miles per hour. Since the automobile first became a part of our culture a century ago, someone has always tried to go faster. In the 1930s, Sir Malcolm Campbell drove his specially built 5-ton behemoth called the Bluebird along the sands of Daytona Beach to a new speed record. Other records have been set by cars designed primarily for racing. But even an all-out racing machine, such as the Probe, had to be modified to meet the special requirements of a pure speed test. Lynn St. James knew it would take a team effort to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier.
Well, when I saw that that there was the record and decided I was going to do it, obviously the first most important element was what race car was I going to be able to do it in. So I talked to Ford Motor Company, since they were my current sponsor, and they were interested in doing it. So I think they got interested from their own perspective because they knew that the Probe is their development car. It is the most sophisticated state-of-the-art equipment. This would be a way of displaying that equipment, putting it to a test, and displaying it in a real positive sense. So they said, if you can put all of the other elements together, we are in. We were really interested. Then I thought the next most critical area is tires, because that's what you're in touch with on the racetrack, and I knew that Goodyear would have to come in and give it full support. And so then I did approach Goodyear and talk to them about it, because they had to develop a special tire for this. It wasn't a case where they just had to pull off the inventory, 12 tires or something to go run at Talladega.
Even after all the arrangements were made, the Probe still had to be tested. Everything had to be just right before Lynn could buckle herself into the cockpit and try to drive into the record books. Ian Dawson, the crew chief, talks about the challenge.
This is something that can't really be achieved unless the driver can give you good feedback for what you're doing. That the tyres that Goodyear have developed for this run as well are also balanced to the chassis. So you work in a three-directional, the driver's input, the tyre manufacturer's input, and the engineers with it, and then the team's ability then to adjust things to it.
But Dawson's crew has plenty of experience at making a car at home on a racetrack. While the mechanics went about preparing the car, Lynn conferred with another member of the team, international racing veteran Doc Bundy. Doc has driven the Probe in competition, and he was at Talladega to make sure the car was set up correctly. Before Lynn went out on the track, Bundy talked about what she would face.
I've been with this car all year long, and to do what she's going to attempt is certainly tough. And unless you've ever lived at 200 miles an hour, there's no way you'll ever know it, sitting where you are. But believe me, it's tough to do.
Before Lynn St. James could learn to live at 200, she would have to get used to living at speeds where every additional mile an hour means more effort, more concentration. The crew had done all it could. Now it was time for Lynn to help them make the final adjustments, to test the Probe at speed, to drive around an unfamiliar racetrack and look for ways to go faster.
It's something that you have to become very feel one with, and it isn't something that over, say, 2 or 3 outings in the car that you can do. We're hoping that when she does get in the car, that she will adapt well to what we've done, and we will be able to make progressive steps through the day until we arrive at the position where we can go and break the records we're looking for.
Each race car has its own personality, and you're going to put that car to its test to the absolute limit of the capability of that car. So you have to feel that. That's a feel that you get through the seat of your pants and through the steering wheel. And so you're playing that instrument. You're really getting the most out of it.
By late in the day, more corrections and adjustments had been made. Lynn and the rest of the team kept working until the gathering darkness forced her into the pits. As the engine cooled, tire temperatures were taken. Lynn talked with the crew about how the car was handling so the mechanics could adjust everything one more time.
I was able to feel the front, drive it with the front, but the back end is still having that focus.
The stage was set. There was nothing to do now but wait for another dawn. The next time Lynn St. James climbed into the Ford Probe, she would be ready to drive past 200 miles per hour.
According to this is absolute pressure. We use it mainly for seeing the vector.
It's a new day at Talladega, but this day is different. This day is special. There's a fresh mood in the pits. Everything moves a little more quickly. It feels like a race day morning, only different. After months of planning, after hours of testing, after running and rerunning 200-mile-per-hour laps in her mind, Lynn St. James is ready. Everything else is put aside now. Her entire being is focused on the racetrack and on the car she hopes will carry her to a record.
It's what it's all about. I mean, we have to put up with, we, meaning race car drivers, have to There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of people, business between you and getting in that race car. The people of the crew, the people of the sponsors, the people of the media, the people of the fans, the people of the sanctioning body. There's all of these things between you and the race car. And then when you get in the car, all of those things go away. They all disappear. And that's what it's all about. That's what makes everything else worth, because you get in the car and you become one with the car. You're in total control of the car, and it is the most phenomenal feeling in the whole world. It's peaceful. It's hard to say that, but with all the noise and all the, you know, and all the gauges and all the things, it's very, very peaceful in there. It's just the most comfortable, exciting place in the world for me to be.
As she accelerated out of the pits and onto the racetrack, Lynn was all alone. There were no radio communications with her crew, no way for her to know her exact speed. Her job was to go as fast as she possibly could. She had only her own sense of the car's speed to tell her whether she was achieving her goal. But her senses were heightened, and she felt she was almost a part of the car.
You feel everything instantly. As the car feels changes, you feel them at the same time. Consequently, you can respond a lot sooner, and you're right on top of it. You just feel everything the car is doing, and it's a really neat feeling.
In the pits, her progress was measured in numbers. Lap times were taken, then quickly converted to miles per hour.
140,959.
195,553.
Suddenly, Lynn had turned a lap at 195, making her the fastest woman ever to circle a racetrack. But her goal was still 5 miles an hour away.
Individual lap time 197.938.
10 mile, 313.
Nearly 198, just a slow walk short of 200. There was some doubt on pit road. Could she go any faster?
He's flirting right in that area.
I think she's having a little bit of problems with the shift linkage.
Inside the probe, Lynn could sense she was getting very close. She had to decide whether to push for even more speed, knowing that every mile an hour more brought her closer to the edge of control. She stayed out.
You're the pilot, and except you feel the ground, so you're in touch with the ground, and you've got all that power, that surge of power that comes on, and I mean, the car can get sideways real easy, and so you've got to keep the car going straight, and then once you get it up to speed at 200 or plus miles an hour, it's then like threading a needle. You're literally looking at 200 miles an hour, you're approaching all of the things ahead of you very quickly, but yet you still have to look way down ahead. That's the whole key of driving a car, is to be always ahead of the car and not the car ahead of you. And at 200 miles an hour, that means you just have to mentally make those decisions a lot quicker. So you're looking down exactly where you want to be, and at the same time making any corrections that the car is telling you to make. You want to turn in a little sooner, you want to pinch it a little more, you want to let it out a little bit so that the car glides. But it all happens very, very quickly.
When you come to Talladega, you know, it's got the reputation of being the speed track. Because of the high banks and fairly long straightaways, it is fast. The only problem is it just scares the hell out of you to do it.
But by now, Lynn St. James was too busy concentrating to be scared. And suddenly, 200 miles an hour came and went. One more lap, and a final speed of 204.223. The dream had become a reality.
My only reason for driving a race car is because I love it more than anything else in the world, and I think I do it better than I do anything else in the world.
As she drove onto pit road at Talladega for the last time, Lynn St. James knew that she had achieved her goal. Her one-lap record of 204.223 miles per hour would set a standard for other women to emulate. And there were plenty of other reasons to celebrate as well. On her way to the single lap record, Lynn had set 12 other national and international marks. She didn't need a checkered flag, or a victory stand, or a silver trophy. The satisfaction of having been in the car, at speed, was more than enough.
92 and 10 kilometers, 187. That should be dramatically high.
Yeah. That's
good.
It's where a race car and
now we can go and do something when we set it up properly next year.
So now we can settle down for serious drinking.
Yeah. We can have a beer.
Is that what you've been waiting for? Huh? Yes.
Well, we
Thank you,
go and have
engine
a beer.
builder.
Because we couldn't get one last night. So it was important that we went there without making a false impression that we'd built something purely to go as quick as possible. We went there under the same circumstances as previous women's records had been set, with a car that could have been taken that day to a track and been probably put on pole position for a race that it was built to do.
I think that women are now achieving such fantastic things in non-traditional areas across the board, in all areas in this world, that motor racing is just one area that is another one to add to the list, and I'm pleased about that.
This is the Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega, Alabama, the world's fastest speedway. It is here that racers come when they want to set new standards in high speeds. And this is what they see as they hurtle toward the speedway's steeply banked turns at 200 miles an hour. It is Talladega's high banking and long straightaways that allow drivers to explore the limits of automotive technology. In 1985, racing driver Lynn St. James came to Talladega, and when she left, she had set 13 new national and international speed records. But there is always room for new entries in the record books, and the lure of Talladega's high banking has summoned Lynn St. James back to the Alabama hills.
The announcement is Lynn St. James' attempt in a 1989 Ford to break some real important records at Talladega this Monday and Tuesday. The car has an engine built by Ernie Elliott. The car was prepared in part by Bill Elliott. It's a 1989 Ford Thunderbird.
Well, even though a record was set the last time I was at Talladega, it's still another racetrack, and I'm going to be driving a whole different animal. So we have the major players to make this successful. We've got Goodyear, we've got Ford Motor Company with the brand new 1989 Thunderbird Super Coupe. We've got the Elliott team who just can win races everywhere, and particularly at Talladega, and know the car and know the track. And we got the driver that can get the job done. So, I mean, we got it done. We just go out and go fast.
And hopefully this car will give us a little more able to work, you know, front downforce, rear downforce, and better balance a car more so than we could do in 88 or 87.
You know, you got to know when, and then you just got to do it.
When Lynn St. James came to Talladega in 1985, it was to drive the Ford Probe, a sleek, sophisticated racing machine. Powered by a twin-turbocharged four-cylinder engine, the Probe carried Lynn to 13 new records, including the single-lap closed-course mark of 204.223 miles per hour. Lynn, a successful road racer, has continued to expand her racing experience while dreaming of coming back to Talladega to break her own records.
Well, fortunately, I've had some good things happen to me since the record run. A victory at the 24 Hours of Daytona, co-driving with Bill Elliott and Tom Gloy. And I think I learned that it's really good to hook up with Bill Elliott. He has a way of winning, and he has a way of making things happen, all in the good sense. So fortunately, my career, I've had some really good drives, and I've continued to be able to sort of, you know, chip away at
progressing in my career. But I think that the new record run will just intensify, solidify my career in motorsports, and I'm still hungry. You know, we're going to go faster than we did before, and I think the Thunderbird Super Coupe is going to be an exciting car to drive, and so, you know, I'm just as hungry, if not a little hungrier, because now I think I know a little more than I did the last time I came here.
Going even faster would require a very special car, and Ford racing executives knew who could build it: Bill and Ernie Elliott. In their shop in rural Dawsonville, Georgia, the Elliots had built stock cars that set track records at Talladega. Now they accepted the challenge of building a car capable of carrying Lynn St. James even faster than she had gone in 1985. The Elliots knew the task wouldn't be an easy one, but they also knew one of the fringe benefits would be a head start on their own 1989 Winston Cup program.
You know, the thing about building a new car, a totally different car, is you've got to determine where the body needs to go as far as on the chassis, things of that sort. There's always a lot of little problems to work out, is where to put the motor fixtures, you know, where the windshield goes and how all that goes together. And with building one already, that should help us start laying the groundwork for our 89 NASCAR Winston Cup stuff.
Basically, we didn't prepare this car much different than the way we do a Winston Cup car. It's done pretty much the same way because we wanted to stick to basically what we know. The cars run at a little bit lower ground height than the Winston Cup car, and the body's it's a little bit narrower than a Winston Cup car, and it's a little bit lower than a Winston Cup car from a roof line standpoint. You know, you learn about basically, you know, what you can do with the body from an aero standpoint, about front and rear lift and down forces. So, you know, that gives you an idea of what you're going to do on your 89 Winston Cup cars.
Another key element was tires. Special tires would have to be made.
We were very pleased when Ford and Lynn St. James approached us about this record run. At the present time, we own all the significant speed records, closed course records, and straightaway records in the drag cars. And this gives us an opportunity to do something under a very controlled condition with a very unique car, and gives our engineers a chance to study a problem, intensely study a problem, and we learn a lot of things from it.
Once the record run car had been built by the Elliots, it was taken to the Lockheed Wind Tunnel in Marietta, Georgia. The aerodynamics of the car, basically taken from the street version of the same vehicle, proved to be excellent. But the wind tunnel revealed several areas where further improvements could be made. Improvements that would allow the car to be propelled through the Alabama air at record speeds. Only after all the fabricating and modifying had been completed, months after the project began, was the car ready to be test-driven for the first time.
Well, I think the objective of the first test is to be able to go quick through the corners, because that's where the speed is really going to count. The straightaway, they're so long here at Talladega and so wide that that's not going to accomplish or prove anything. I mean, it'll be good to get a feel for just the speeds, but my goal today is to be able to get real comfortable and get the car to take a good set and know the speed entry and the corner exit speed, so that I'm entering the corner and exiting the corner as quickly as I can, and to get that feel in the car. So if I can achieve that on this first test day, I will feel that, you know, I'm on par and ready to go to the next step.
The test day began with Bill Elliott taking Lynn on a guided tour around the racetrack. Driving a street version of the record run car, Bill showed Lynn how to deal with some of the special problems that Talladega poses. Even though each turn appears to be identical, they are actually all slightly different. And getting through the turns properly is the key to carrying speed down the long straights.
And then you get on around here, and then you're trying to make your exit out of the corner.
Right.
But the biggest thing, I just try to get the car turned into the corner. I don't let it. I just try to get me a good line going in. I probably run about here, but it's so rough anywhere right in this area. I just let it go up the racetrack. You know, and it's gaining pretty quick, and I'll let it take a set, and then bring it back down, and then make my exit.
Lynn knew it would take a team effort to go out and break the records she had set 3 years earlier. She would drive the car, but its preparation would be just as important. She knew the Elliott team would be a key factor in anything she accomplished.
Well, in 1985, when we came here with the Ford Pro, Bill Elliott was really a major asset to the program. He really contributed to the success of it. Not only is this his turf as far as just a racetrack, but this time, this is his turf as far as the equipment goes. It's a stock car in the sense that it's a stock-like Thunderbird Super Coupe, but it's really a specially built car. It's really specially designed and built. Ford Engineering, through Special Vehicle Operations, made a major contribution to getting this car designed for this record run.
Lynn realized as soon as she began testing that breaking her old record was well within reach. The question now was, what kind of a physical effort would it take to get the maximum out of this car?
It's just really physically very demanding, and then by the time you know you've done it, and you can't let down because you got to do it again because now you're down to turn 3 and 4, you know. So it's very quick, it's very demanding, and as I noticed as the day wore on, one of the days I was testing, that my neck was returning left all the time, that I was starting to get fatigue in my neck, and again, in a road racing car, our necks are being thrown forward under braking, right and left for right and left-hand turns. It almost balances the body out. A muscle has a chance to sort of recuperate while it's being thrown the other way. When you're turning left all the time, your neck's just getting, you know, just that one angle just keeps going after over and over and over again, and fatigue can actually set in. You know how now I got to have a plan now rather than just going total by feel.
Right.
So should I try to go through the corners 200 RPM, maybe faster every time, or should I try different lines? Should I get...
You know, instead of going, when you feel pretty comfortable, instead of going down in there and backing all the way out of the throttle, just back part of the way out of the throttle.
Right.
You know, just enough to stay comfortable, and then just keep working from that.
Okay.
You know, and then once you get committed to in the corner, let's say that once you make your turn in, and you're in it for probably count a couple of seconds, and you can just roll right back in the throttle flat out, you know, and not have any trouble coming off.
By the end of the session, Lynn knew she should be able to break her old record when the official day arrived. She was getting used to the car and felt satisfied.
First of all, I had a hard time knowing what to do with my left foot, and then I realized that I wasn't going to have to shift at all, and then I just anchored it. And initially, I was sort of tippy-toeing in there. I was getting out of the throttle and kind of pointing with a certain tentative approach. And as I got more confidence in the tires, and I really started to get a feel for the tires, and Bill told me, you've got to just pitch that thing in there, you know, then I started to get more aggressive and realized that you got to get down there and get the car to take a set and get back on the throttle really early. Turn 1 and 2 at Talladega is a sharper radius turn, and it's a little more severe degree banking, and so you really feel the G-forces on those 2 turns. Then you let it drift out, and you're on the back straightaway, and then you're into turn 3 and 4. And initially, I had a harder time with those 2 turns, but then, as I got more confidence in, I'm able to flat-foot it through there. And again, the Goodyear tires just really held. And once I get, you know, the tires are so critical to ability to have grip and the ability to have confidence driving a race car. And I was so pleased. I had a big smile on my face when I flat-footed it the first time through 3 and 4. And then just let the car drift out. I love the tri-oval section. It's sort of like, it's more like a road race car because you kind of got to turn the car down and it really, you feel the bite and you feel the grip and you feel the car working. So it's a pretty thrilling experience.
After 6 months of planning and building and testing, the day of Lynn St. James' record run finally arrived. This was the day all the theories of aerodynamics and horsepower would be measured against the clock. The final coats of lacquer had been applied just hours before the car was hauled to Talladega. And now last-minute preparations were begun to make doubly sure everything worked and looked just right. As a racer, Lynn had known the pressure of competition many times. On the morning of the record run, she was feeling the nervous energy she was used to experiencing on race days. She was confident, but she realized she would be facing a stiff challenge.
Well, when you go to a racetrack, normally you have other cars you're racing, you have a schedule, you have existing times around that racetrack that you know where you're at. When I came here, I knew we had to go over 204. We'd gone over 204, but I also knew that I had tested here, which was a nice addition to have that knowledge behind us. I'd already tested at 208, so it already had exceeded my record considerably when we were testing. So I just knew we weren't there yet.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're all ready for you.
All right, I'm ready too. I'm glad I got to sit in the shop a few times and actually sit in the car, because we developed a seat that will essentially fit me. And the seats that they use in stock car racing are different than our seats. So it's sort of like putting a different set of clothes on. It's a different feeling. But I'm glad I've had those few times of sitting in the shop and just sort of getting used to the environment, to the instrumentation, the steering wheel. The steering wheel's probably twice as big as the one that I'm used to using. So, you can't beat seat time, and you can't beat that time of getting used to everything.
Each of your runs is from a standing start, and the start-finish line is by pit exit. It's the large white stripe. So when you pull out, just stop there for a moment. He'll reset the clock, and then whenever you decide to go, you will automatically trigger the eye. So it's completely up to you. As I said, in the space of 4 laps, you'll cover everything up to 10 miles. We will, the individual 1 kilometer, 1 mile, and 1 lap, which is the key one, we'll go back and check each of the electric eyes to make sure you get the fastest one possible. Okay?
There are having 6 eyes there.
Actually, we have a total of 7, including start-finish. For it to be recognized internationally, it has to represent a 1% improvement
From any existing record.
Existing record.
Okay.
Okay. And I've worked out all the numbers so that
It was nice of you to do
while
that.
we're sitting on the wall, we can figure out while you're doing it.
That's good.
Okay.
Because it's like watching grass grow from the premise where they have something to look at while I'm out there scaring myself to death, yes. We'll just push it out.
We're going to push the car out.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, that's right.
As Bill installed the side windows, which helped make the car even more aerodynamic, Lynn settled into her specially built racing seat and strapped on her safety harness. Once Lynn was sealed inside the record car, she was finally alone, ready to drive out onto the racetrack to see what she and the car would be able to accomplish. As she came up to speed, she quickly remembered how physically grueling it was to maneuver the 1.5-ton record-run car.
Driving a stock car around Talladega is physically more demanding in the 60 laps that I did in one day of testing there than driving at the 24 hours of Daytona, where I've driven for hours on, hours and hours. It's physically more demanding, particularly at those speeds. The G-forces and the amount of steering resistance that you get. You have a large steering wheel, and particularly for a small-shouldered person, you put your hands on the steering wheel and they're out here, you have no leverage, and you turn and you have to hold the steering wheel, and the car wants to go straight. And so you have 3,200 or 3,300 pounds with 700 or something horsepower that wants to go straight, and you're having to hold it in a turn. In Talladega, they're long turns. You're in those turns for probably 5 seconds or something, and 5 seconds may sound like a real short amount of time, but let me tell you, it's a lot of resistance there.
Okay?
Yeah, what's happening is now my head just went a floppo down there because of the G-forces. And this isn't
you got a strap.
holding it up, so I got a strap because I hope that it'll work, but it just,
Between runs, Lynn made adjustments to her equipment while the mechanics changed tires and checked the car. On one of her earlier laps, she had broken her own record, but she wanted to go even faster. As she prepared to try again, Lynn knew that to go faster, she would have to put everything out of her mind except her driving.
Looks very good.
Yeah, it's funny because you sit in pit lane and the crew works on the car and you see all the people standing around talking or looking at stopwatches or looking at sheets of paper of previous lap times or whatever they're looking at. And you can't help but somehow get caught up into that. And when I drive down pit lane, that's why I've had this timing where it all just blocks out. Now it's you and the racetrack, and it's very simple and pure. And that's when I was having trouble doing that. I realized as I was going into turn 1 on my first lap that I was still thinking about all those people. And as I came down out of turn 4, I was looking to the left to see if everybody was still standing there or hoping they went to lunch or something, you know. So when I was able to make that mental shift, I completely wiped that out. I'm not concerned about what anybody's thinking because it really affects your ability to drive. It takes 100%, if not more, concentrating on what you're doing with the car to be able to drive a car quickly and well and safe and as fast as the car will go.
The new record was now simply a matter of seconds and miles per hour. As the number of laps mounted, the stopwatches on pit road clicked continuously. They shut off a little more quickly, and then even quicker. The number of miles per hour climbed higher and higher.
43, this is 47.
Go ahead.
Okay, the fastest lap was a
45.084.
2:12.435.
More than 212 miles per hour. At the end of a long day, that was the fastest lap of all. A new record by more than 8 miles an hour at a top speed where each mile per hour is twice as hard to reach as the last. Lynn St. James had once again set a lofty goal for herself and exceeded it.
Everyone can hear me. We've double-checked all the data, and the new women's closed course world speed record is now 212.435 miles per hour.
Hey!
Yay Ford, yay Elliott, oh God.
Speech!
Speech. I need more courage, more skill, and we're going to go faster.
Lynn St. James had wound up a long day at Talladega with a new record, but she felt there was even more speed left in the Thunderbird. So Lynn and the Elliott crew were back at the track the next morning to see just how many more tenths of a second could be shaved off the one-lap record. The morning was cool, and success came almost immediately. After only a few laps, the record speed of the day before was raised yet again. But then the temperature began to climb, and Lynn St. James knew she had gone as fast as she could go. So the final numbers were tallied, and Lynn left Talladega with 21 national and international speed records to her credit.
The individual one lap was this morning, which is a new record, which was 212.577. Congratulations.
These record runs, although they seem very simple when you're watching them, are very complicated. The speeds are extremely high, and we concern ourselves a lot about them because You know, that extra 10 mile an hour is a very difficult thing. The stresses on the tires go up proportionally with the speed. So we really have a lot of respect for these records. We take them very seriously, and we really congratulate her on her accomplishment.
Well, one of the nice things about the 1989 Thunderbird Super Coupe that we ran at Talladega is that it is a record run car. That's what it was built to do. It wasn't a race car that we modified that then's got to hurry up and get back on a racetrack again. So now what we can do is it'll take probably a show tour for it where it can go around the country and a lot of people can see the car. But I'm going to be looking at that car and maybe looking at the record books to see maybe we can take it to Bonneville and out to the Salt Flats, or maybe we can set new speed records with that car.